Hi, everyone. In this series of cybersecurity videos, I'm going to be showing you today how to configure secure shell SSH with two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication, also known as multi-factor authentication. So I'm going to be discussing what is secure shell, what is multi-factor authentication, and how you can avoid the risk of running your server with all your data being compromised. In order for you to run a server, web hosting company that you work on, or a server you have yourself, a business that you have, a domain that you want to make sure that it is secure. And whenever you authenticate to a remote server, you're using secure shell. Secure shell is secure. However, it is not as secure as you can think of, because it is password protected by authentication, login, and password. However, the password could be compromised, since there's a lot of brute force attack against the password that you may have, and somebody may find out your password. So there's a second method of authentication, which is called two-factor authentication. And this is SSH is just authentication through login password, whether it's LDAP or whether it's password file on the server side. But then this is what you know, your authentication, login, and password. And two-factor authentication, in addition, what you have. So some kind of key that you have it on your phone, or your private keys, smart card, and maybe fingerprints, maybe authentication through other methods of biometrics. So you can use that one for two-factor authentication, including PEV, which is personal identification verification. But two-factor authentication has been used by banks, by businesses, and by companies that they're hosting a lot of services, like, for example, Amazon Web Services. They use two-factor authentication for SSH connectivity to the server side. And a lot of other companies, we use it on every company that I have worked on. So I'm going to be discussing this one tonight, and I hope you are going to learn a lot from it. Basically, the agenda, I'm going to be discussing understanding a secure shell and two-factor authentication. Prerequisite for SSH and two-factor authentication, what is required, and then we're going to go through a step-by-step with two-factor authentication and how we can troubleshoot the steps. So with that in mind, let's get started. Understanding SSH and two-factor authentication, that's the topic of this video. What is SSH? SSH is basically secure shell, and it is a secure shell is a network protocol that secure data communication over unsecure network. So you're running SSH between client and a server. The SSH client and software that you use could be PuTTY, could be Bitwise, could be SSH client on the terminal, could be any software that is there, or scopy or secure FTP. That's the client version. But there's a daemon that is running SSHD as a daemon that is running on the server side that is listening to a particular port. SSH normally listens to port 22, but you can configure it to run on a different port. However, some people, they say, well, I'm listening to port 2022 rather than 22, the default SSH, and I configure it so people cannot find it. Yet there's a lot of utilities and Nmap and other ones. People can scan your server and they find what port you're listening, and they will find out that a new port. To secure it, it's better to just make sure that you have other methods of just securing it. One of the best methods is two-factor authentication, in addition to secure shell authentication with password. So you have two-factor rather than one factor. one factor could be compromised because I said the password could be brute force attack, and then they will eventually do it. Or sometimes you may just be typing in front of somebody, and then you just chose a simple password, and somebody else could just find it out. But it is best to just have two methods of authentication. So Secure Shell is a SSH. It has a client version and has a server's version. And then every Linux and Mac, Unix, they have by default the binaries and the software installed, the clients and the servers. For the servers, normally you start the services, and then when you enable it by boot time, you do, for example, on Ubuntu, you do systemctl enable SSH. And then on Red Hat, you do systemctl enable SSHD. They call it SSHD as daemon. So each service, you have to find out what service is configured for it, and it's there. SSH does not run as a daemon on a Windows platform, because Windows uses remote desktop. And then on the client side, nowadays SSH comes on the client side. So if you have Windows 11, you can just run SSH from command prompt, and SSH space followed by username at hostname, and that would authenticate there. Or SSH -L username space minus space then the host name. So you could authenticate that way. If you're on a Mac or Linux, by default SSH, you can open a terminal and then SSH to a particular server. However, if you don't have the host name and IP address of the remote servers, you have to figure out that information. And if they are listening to port 22 or SSH request, and there's no firewall blocking your IP or anything, then you can connect to Secure Shell remotely. And then also you have Secure FTP for file transfer protocol. Secure FTP and scopy is also what comes as a client software that you can just do scopy, secure copy, or secure FTP, SFTP. That's for file transfer protocol. SSH client itself is just a client software. And then on Windows, you have other software like PuTTY, which you should get it from putty.org website. If you just download the PuTTY from putty.org, it is safer. But don't get it from any other kind of compromised software that they just put like a Trojan horse that you could just copy it, and all of a sudden, and that the first time you use your private key is already copied to some compromised place. So make sure that if you're downloading PuTTY, download it from putty.org. And if you're just installing Bedwise, go to Bedwise website and then get it from the source. So all of these software, whether it's a pAgent or a PuTTY or Bedwise, they come with a client software that you can install it on Windows, and then on Linux you have the SSH on OpenSSH. You can install it, and then there's a lot of software. If you're using the Windows, you can also get WinGit is the package manager for Windows. You can get it, and if you're using it on Ubuntu, you can use apt-get, apt-get, or apt, and then a space install the name of the package like OpenSSH or OpenSSL or whatever package you want to download and install. And if you're using on Red Hat or any Fedora distribution, distribution, you can have Red Hat, you can have Rocky, and you used to have CentOS. All of those ones use Yum as Yellow Dog Update Manager as a package manager. On top of it, now Yum is kind of end of life soon, and it's replaced to DNF, and DNF is symbolic link to DNF-3 version 3 because it's mastering with Python 3. So you could just do a DNF and space install, and then the particular package that you want to install. And also on Linux, in addition to apt, there's also snap, and then also Debian PKG. DPKG is the mother of all packages on distribution of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the distribution is really cool also, and it is basically Debian distribution. Ubuntu is the flavor, and Debian and Mint, or I mean Ubuntu and Mint, or distribution of Debian. So you're welcome to use SSH on Mac, which is Mac is OS X, and it's Sun OS, which is FreeBSD version of it. BSD and OpenBSD was originally done, and then Mac borrowed the original version, and now it's called Darwin, but it is based on BSD. So it's a Unix version, but they all support SSH client and SSH server. So what's two-factor authentication? Two-factor authentication allow you basically to have, as the name says, it's a two-factor. It's just an extra layer of security by requiring two forms of verification. So verification method, two-factor authentication use combination of something you know, and like password and user ID, and something you have, like a mobile device or a SAY token or smart card, anything that you just use to authenticate as a second factor. So something that you have in your possession. And then normally people can only have one of them. So remotely, if they try to become you and they authenticate with your password because they compromise your password somehow with brute force attack or some other means, they found out your password, but if they don't have your mobile device or a smart card at their possession, they cannot authenticate through the two-factor authentication if you configure your SSH with two-factor authentication. If you have only one means of authentication, which is username and password, then once they're compromised your password and user ID, then you're done. They can just do whatever they want. And especially if you assign the same password for the user as well as the root password. Normally, it's a good, safe way to just give one password for the user, and then when you become with sudo or running root, make sure that you use a different password. So if one is compromised, they cannot get it. And normally, if you run 1,000 servers, you are admin, make sure you have some patterns so you can remember the password, but if one server is compromised, they cannot break it into all the servers. Those are security guidance that I'm practicing it for maybe 30 years, doing a lot of admin work, a lot of system analysis, system senior software engineering, all of this. And thank God we have not been compromised. So let me just go back to this page. Importance of two-factor authentication. Implementing two-factor authentication significantly enhance security by making unauthorized access more difficult. More difficult because the person does not have your phone, and there's no way he can just log in with one only knowing your password. And then if the server, when you try to somebody try to do authentication, normally there's other means of enabling how many times that somebody could try, and if it is done by a software versus like a robot or something rather than just a person, then you could just look at the logs, and var log secure will show how many times the authentication failed, and a lot of those means you can just find out if somebody is trying or attempting to be you. Benefit of integrated two-factor authentication with secure shell. First of all, it enhances security. So your system security is enhanced, meaning that it is a less chance of being compromised. Reduce unauthorized access. Obviously, if people try to authenticate, then they don't have the two-factor authentication, like they're missing your phone or they're missing your password, and they have to have both at their position in order to authenticate, then they are not going to be authorized. Protecting against a stolen credential. So stolen credential meaning that maybe they might steal your key, even if you're setting a PIM file on from Amazon Web Services, and then the key was there. Somehow maybe the group has that key, and then somebody somehow lost it, or something given to somebody. It was somehow the key was stolen. Then they have to have a second factor, and then now they're stuck. They cannot do that one. So prerequisite for SSH and two-factor authentication. Whenever you are setting up a secure shell with two-factor authentication, there are some libraries that you need to install. First, system requirement and dependencies. Depending on the operating system you're running, whether it's Linux Ubuntu or Red Hat or Fedora distribution or any other platforms that you're configuring it, you have to install the library, the compatibility, operating systems, version of SSH, everything. You have to make sure all the dependencies are met. So how do you do that one? Installing the necessary software packages. So there are certain packages that comes in for two-factor authentication, and Google Authenticator is one of the packages. It is basically the LibPAM Authenticator that I will show you later on this video, how I install that one and how I configure it and all of that steps. You basically install the LibPAM Authenticator using the method of the package manager on that particular operating system. In the case of Linux Ubuntu, I had to use apt-get, and then in the case of Red Hat, you use DNF, and in the case of Windows, you use WinGet. But Windows, you don't install Secure Shell as a daemon. You just install the client version, whether it's PuTTY or Bitwise or SSH client that comes with Windows subsystem on Linux version. So here are installing necessary software packages. For Linux Ubuntu operating system, you need the following. So I installed the libpam Google Authenticator using, if you're already root or sudo, you don't need to put sudo, but if you didn't, you need to do switch user do. This does not stand for super user do. Some people say so you become super. No, you're getting switch user do. Switch user meaning that while I'm running this command, if I have the privilege to become root as with my authentication, then I can run this command. But if I'm not on the sudo or access list, then it will say this is going to be reported and it's not allowed. So sudo apt-get. Apt-get is the package manager. You can do apt or apt-get. This is either one is okay. Install is the action that you want to do, and then what library you want to install. The name of the library is called libpam-google-authenticator. So this is for Ubuntu. For another package, you might add additional packages. You have to find for the packages that you want to install. For Ubuntu, this is the only package you require, and that's libpam-google-authenticator. Once you do this one, in order to be safe, you need to back up the etc pam.d module, which is this file. SSHD is for the pam.d, which is the PAM directory. All the files that you want to configure, one of them is the SSHD for daemon that you have to back it up. And basically, I did a copy, etc pam.d, SSHD, and then give it the same name, .original. And I put it as a kind of like convention for myself. So if I just see a file with .original, most likely I did the work. I just want to save it like that, so I have a code kind of things in my mind that I understand. Oh yeah, that was me last time. But you can also do a look at the timestamp and then look at the var log secure who last time used the switch user do and all the etc sudo files and sudo log files that you can see that who did this work. So now you're using them, VI improved, etc pam.d, SSHD, and I put this pound, which is like common, and then the comment says add the following line, auth required pam underscore Google underscore authenticator. So I just need to do this underscore authenticator .so. And now okay, and then somehow I put dash. That's not dash. It's just like this, pam underscore authenticator .so. Null okay, when you do null okay, meaning that if there's another user aside from the user that I configured, all those other users are still okay to just connect through. If they didn't configure their within their phone, then they don't have to be like blocked all of a sudden. But if you just say I'm the only sole user, then you don't need to put null okay. So if any users are in the exception list, you need to put this null okay. And then at the bottom, you could configure the user list to say these are the list of the users that are okay to log in. But if you just did not put it, then you don't need to put anything in the bottom of that file. Save the above file. Basically, SSHD is what I'm talking about. And by pressing escape and then colon, WQ, W means right, and quit, and this exclamation mark saying for sure. So then after you do that, run backup now the SSHD configuration file, which is etc SSH and Linux Ubuntu, SSHD for daemon. And notice that there's a SSH underscore config, which is the client version, and there's SSH and D underscore config, which is the server side. You want to configure the server side. So look for that one and then copy that file as a .original file. Again, make sure that the name is saved with that one. You can have a timestamp if you want. I have this mechanism that I don't want to have too many copies. I just want to have like last changes as .original. So them etc SSHD. Now you can VI improve on this file and then update the below line. The below line, notice that K is start with uppercase and I for interactive and authentication. So if you're looking for this one, don't look for KBD with the search as lowercase. Make sure you type in KBD and you will see this line with the option no. Update from no to yes. You just modify that one. Then do escape and then WQ bang and save it. Now you need to restart the service SSH. On Linux Ubuntu, it is called SSH. On Red Hat, it is called SSHD. If you forgot what the name is, services is, there's a directory called on Linux and Red Hat, Linux Ubuntu and Red Hat and Rocky, all of them, lep system D system. Under that one, you do ls minus -l star SSH star, you will see in the list of the services that are there. If you don't see a D in it, you cannot just say restart with D. That's a Red Hat. So systemctl restart SSH will be okay on Ubuntu. And then now you need to, after you did this one, now you need to just make sure that you install on your iPhone, you download for your operating system, download the Google Authenticator app. Please remember that Google Authenticator app, there's another version of the app that has like a 4-star. When I tried to do that one, it says something like, oh, if you want to install this one, it's 77 cents per week. It's $39 per month or per year actually. So You don't need to use that one because it charges you $39 a year. So use this one, and that's free. And this one does not charge you, even though the other one says that, yeah, Google Authenticator is free, but the app is not giving you any option to continue unless you approve the $39 per year charge. This one did not prompt anything, so it just comes out with that. So that's just a kind of disclaimer, but you have to, just at the time they do it, you have to know what's going on there, because things could change again. So when you install this app, the software now, you need to go on the server, because we restarted the service with this command, systemctl restore SSH. Now the app is available for me to just go on my phone and then just say download the Google Authenticator app, and then at this time, if I'm root already, I could say switch user dash new user. In this case, I was giving you an example. I created the account new user to just show you everything, but you can have any user. So if the user is Wahid or John or Nancy or anything that is there, you have to switch user to that user. And then this one is as root. You could do switch user dash new user. It will just become that user. And now, when you do this one, at this time, the Google Authenticator LetPAM software was previously installed. Now, one of the binary that's available on your system is called Google Dash Authenticator. So you run Google Dash Authenticator. Now the information is going to show with the barcode. Then you have to zoom out so you can see everything, and then you can just scan it. And then basically, Linux Ubuntu operating system, you need the following. Once the scan is done, the code will appear on your phone, right? And then the emergency code is also will show once you type in the code that it shows on your phone. The emergency code is there. The emergency codes are just in case if you lose access to your phone and this misplaced somewhere, and then you missed it. So you just have to save that emergency code to one of the private location that's not accessible for everybody. It is only private, like your private key. You just save that one. So if you lose your phone, you can use that emergency code. Then at this time, you can use SSH username at hostname. This hostname is the one that you scan it. So if it was algorithm, like in my example, then I could say SSH new user at algorithm. But if I'm logged on the current machine already, and that every machine localhost is pointing to itself. So the loopback interface, we call it. Then you can say SSH new user at localhost, or this would be 127.0.0.1 IP address, the loopback interface. So you authenticate to your two-factor authentication is already enabled, and you can do it. This is the time that when I run the Google Authenticator on this one, this barcode was showing up. It's the fact that this barcode is not exactly how it is. I just kind of shrinked it, and I kind of did it a little bit, so somebody does not even scan it. This is not safe for you to just say, oh, I'm going to scan that one. He gave me the barcode. It is going to be a different thing because it's compromised already, or kind of like altered. In this case, not compromised, altered. So you could see that I did it, but I just had to show you the interface, and the number will show. This is another picture I got it from internet, so it's not exact these numbers. So just for a demo purpose, to show you that whatever you do with the Google Dash Authenticator, then this is you're gonna scan it with by pressing add or scan on your phone app for the Google Authenticator. Then you scan this one. Then the number that shows up here, you type it in here, and then you're set to go to the next step. And next step is prompting you for some of these questions. Just read it, and however it applies to you. For me, I just said yes, 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 and then you could do yes, yes, no, and then it's up to you. You have to read it and then make sure you follow it through. At this time, your authentication is done, so you're good to go. Now, security consideration and best practices. I'm showing you system and software updates. Basically, make sure that all your system is up to date. So app dash update will just update your system. A strong password, obviously, password cannot be 123, something like test 123 or something. It has to be more than 12 characters or longer, 15 characters. Sometimes we put it. So, and then make sure that it's a combination of uppercase, lowercase, and some kind of what they call it, sorry, combination of uppercase, lowercase, and some kind of a spatial symbol like at and bang or exclamation or asterisk, whatever those symbols that you could use, a spatial character we call it, and then maybe it's a word and it cannot be a word in dictionary. Maybe it's a poem, maybe it's a long phrase that you could take a few of them. So a strong password is always recommended. Access log review, and make sure you review the logs files to see how it is done. So step-by-step configuration of SSH with two-factor authentication. And then right here, I just showed the same thing that I did earlier. So installing the process two-factor authentication and package manager with apt-get and configuring SSH to use two-factor authentication. That was on etc pam .dsshd. You configure it, editing sshd underscore config file, and then enabling two-factor authentication options, and then test the configuration. Once you're done with the configuration, obviously you have to authenticate through SSH, and you could be done with it. For troubleshooting purposes, if there's any common issue, normally you might have incorrect permissions, and that maybe the home directory is missing or something, and then the user did not have a password or something. All of those things, you can troubleshoot it differently depending on what error message you get. Configuring errors, and then also to troubleshooting steps. We will outline the effective troubleshooting steps too. So these steps are at this time is not there because we did not have a situation that your authentication fails. So if you are trying to authenticate to a remote server and you getting some error, based on the error, you have to react. That's how you could look at the logs and you could see whether the user account exists, whether the SSH daemon is listening to that port that you're connecting to, whether the server is up and running. A lot of different factor could be done with it there. So there's a lot of other options here that you can just also look at it. It's not that crucial because I'm going to show you and the steps that I did, and I already covered all of this one, right? And this is an important monitoring software updates. We already talked about secure compliance, ensuring compliance and established. When you do secure SSH with two-factor authentication, it is the best security compliance. And then conclusion, importance of two-factor authentication. You know that implementing two-factor authentication significantly increase the security of remote access system, safeguarding sensitive information. Yeah, that's very, very important. Enhancing protection against unauthorized access, so unauthorized people cannot access because they don't have the two means of using first your authenticated password as well as two-factor authentication with the key that you have on your phone, or maybe RSA token, or maybe smart card or something else like fingerprint or something. So steps outlined for configuring, following outline steps for configuring SSH with two-factor authentication ensure a smooth implementation process. So let's see if I just could show you on my Linux server, since I already configured on this Linux server, I have already made it to have open SSH with a secure SSL certificate. But on top of it is that the fact that I installed secure server does not mean that now I'm safe. I have to make sure that if somebody tried to SSH to the machine, then they just have to have the proper authentication. So how do I do that? And now if I just come in on a Linux Ubuntu server and I log in here, so this is my development machine that I can show you everything here that I did configure. So first of all, I said this is a Linux Ubuntu etc OS-release. And you can see it is 22.04, but my server is 24.04. So on every version, you can still configure and work on it. So if I just want to do it on this one as demo, to show you this, I say app the list, and then let pam dash google dash authenticator. So this is the software that it says, okay, yeah, let pam is installed here. You can see here. And then if I do a dpkg -l, and then let pam dash google dash authenticator, then I could get a list of all the packages that are there. And notice that Google Authenticator is one of the binaries there, user bin Google Authenticator there. So if I just say clear screen here, say which Google dash authenticator, then it says that is the binary. So if I say file exclamation mark $, then you could see that that is basically cannot open Google Authenticator, no such file or directory. So let me see, file /user/bin Google dash authenticator. And you can see that is an executable link format, ELF, 64-bit. And the 64-bit is, say, uname -m for machine type is 64-bit, or dash platform, P for platform, it is a 64-bit. So it is for this platform 64-bit, and it is executable, and then dynamically link libraries that are there attached to it. So if I look at the LDD of a user bin Google dash authenticator, you can see all the libraries that are associated there. So that is good. And now we have that one, but I said, well, I configure it, but let's see, after you install the Google Authenticator, you just have to go vim etc sshd, and then the file is called actually pam.d, and then sshd underscore config. Not the sshd config, this one. So notice this one is the first one. I put a pound in front of it because null okay. Since I'm just not allowing anybody to just come in with only password authentication. Everybody has to use the Google PAM authentication. I took the null okay line out, and then if I just put that set line number and you can see line 4 is the one that is not commented. Line 3 is commented, meaning that it is PAM Google Authenticator .so is not enabled, but on line 4 it is enabled with everybody has to log in there. So we looked at this file. Now you are going to quit out with exclamation mark, and then the next file is on is etc SSH directory. I remember I mentioned to you there's a number of files, right? So in this case, on this directory is sysd_config and the sysd_config. These two files are there. Yet notice one of them has the -d, which is meaning that a secure shell daemon_config. The other one is a SSH client. So if I do a cat -n SSH_config, this is the client version. That means every time I authenticate to another server, that is going to just use that file for my authentication. But the one with the SSHD, this one is a different, it's 122 lines, and then this one is the server side. So them SSHD_config is basically the KBD, the one that's right now. Let me just set line number and line 62. Line 62, KDB interactive authentication, by default, this one is set to no, but because I enabled two-factor authentication, I changed that one to yes. And then once you do that one, you do WQ quit, and then if I do a difference between SSHD_config and SSHD_config.original, those two lines are the only difference. Similarly for the other one, so etc pam.d, and I say def, and the file was SSHD and SSHD.original. Since I backed it up, you can see the only line that is different is between those two. I just have one of them with pound and the other one is null. These two lines were added. On the original one, I did not have that line. So if I look for grep -i, and then I say, let's say null, or just the word pam_google_authenticator, authenticator from the file sssd.original, it's not going to show. But if I look for this one, it's going to show. So those are the line that was added on the SSHD. And then after you do that one, then you have to start the services. Remember I said if you go to left system D system, and now if you do ls-ld SSH, notice that I was telling you that some services and that on Linux Ubuntu, it is called SSH, the service, SSH. But in Linux, Red Hat and Linux Fedora and Rocky, all of those ones going under left system D system, you might see the service is called SSHD. So if I do systemctl restart SSHD, it's not going to find the service. It says, well, it did, but it is actually the SSH because that's how the name is there, right? So by doing SSH, now if I look at the status of it, and this one is already enabled, and then you can see it's already enabled. So all I did was that I could just say restart it, and then that will just start it. So the port that is listening here is port 22 by default. So if I say lsof-i:22, you can see that my SSH is listening right here. And then notice that SSH is listening. Let me just make this screen bigger. Okay. So if I go back to my other directory, I don't need to just be on that directory. Clear a screen, say run this command on port 22. You can see it is listening on port 22 with star.ssh and this. One is for port IP version 4 and one is for IP version 6. Either case you can see here. IP version 4, and this is IP version 6. So it is listening on port 22. And how do I know that one is because I did this port 22 colon -I for interface. I could also do ls OF minus P for process number. And then since this one is for the process of IP version 4, I say 8375. And that process is going to just show me all the details of listening on that port. So that is good that this connection is there. But now ID is showing I'm root, right? So ID-UN is only root, right? So if I say get end password root, it is going to show me this, and now I could also say $ID-UN as well, and also do the same thing. However, if I just say, and instead of this one, I say new-user, because I showed you on the PowerPoint presentation that I configured new user. So I'm going to just say, let me become a user. So I'm root already. I go switch user, and then dash new dash user. So whether you do switch user or sudo with a user, now I am that user. ID-UN is going to say new user. Who am I? It's going to say that I just become originally Wahid, and then I just become that user, right? So I'm logged on that session. So if I just say, at this time, let's say clear screen, and PWD, I'm on my user, I say touch this. Now this file is just created there, right? So why I created that file, I want to show you that I could go and modify that file as SSH, and I could be on this machine. So if I say host name, it is going to show algorithm. And if I say cat -n etc host, the loopback interface that I told you 127.0.0.1 is localhost. So by SSHing to algorithm or loopback or localhost, I could get into this machine, right? So I say SSH, SSH, okay. So it is not taking my, it's a little bit slow, okay. Now it's back. SSH new dash user at localhost. And now it's going to prompt me for my two-factor authentication. So I have to go to my Google, and then on the Google app, then you have to, if you have additional users in you, and the download for each user within the app, you have to look for the username at the host name. So the one, and this one, it says new dash user at algorithm. That's the key that I need to use. And this keys, after 30 seconds, it changes, and it gets a little bit red before you do it. So make sure that you type it as soon as you see it, and then once you do it, now it's going to prompt me for the second, which is my password. So I remember my password. I'm going to log in my secure password, and then now I'm on the system. And then if I type in host name, I'm on the same algorithm, the machine that I logged in. If I say ID-UN, I'm just going to use PWD here. And then notice that the file and this is there. So I'm going to just say echo, and this is a test. And then I'm going to write to the file this, and then now the file is having that content of this, and then I'm going to exit out of here. Now I exit out, I'm still here as new user. If I just look at that file, now it has the new content of it, this. So it worked for me. Now I'm going to do SSH -L new dash user, I could just say -L, the username. This is another form of SSH client that you can say. I could type in algorithm or localhost or the IP address. Either one is the host name information. So now it's gonna ask me for the code again, and then the code again I have to type in. And then I type in the password. And now I'm in. So notice again here I'm on the same location. The file this still has the line. Now I'm gonna vim this, and I'm gonna just add another one. And this is the second line. And then I just type in that one. Now I just say cat this, and now I have two lines. Cat -n this is that line, and now I'm going to say echo. This is the third line, and I'm going to use double greater sign this, so I append to the end of it. And you can see here cat -n, this now has that file. If I copy this to that, now I made another file this and that. And therefore this and that are the same file. So echo $? You can see a 0, meaning that both of them are the same. But if I just modify that one, say echo Wahid, and then just send the file double greater sign and then this, now I do the def command, they're different, and they will tell you what is there. So ls -ld, and then instead of all the file with the T, you can see those files there, right? And if I just wanted like a color code, you can do that there were different colors, right? So why I'm showing you this one, because at this time, who am I? I come in from that IP address and I SSH with new user. Now, if I exit out of this one, I say, who am I? And then you can see that I'm just at the login originally that I log into this machine, Wahid, as Wahid. So originally I brought this machine as Wahid, but now ID-UN is showing me that I'm a new user, right? So what does that mean? Now, if I go on this new user and then ls -l, all of those files are there. Cat that is the having this one. Cat this has also Wahid at the end of it. So you saw everything, and I'm going to end this video. Just to wrap up, you need to install the LibPAM Google Authenticator. You need to modify the etc pam.d SSHD, and then I showed you the line that you need to modify, and modify the SSHD, and also restart the SSHD, and then run Google Authenticator to just scan the barcode. And once you scan the barcode, then you're good. You authenticate like I just showed you. Have a great one. God bless you all. Bye-bye.